Thank you. We have a slight technical difficulty, so in the absence of my first slide, oh, there is my first slide, perhaps. That's not my first slide, someone else's idea. There's my first slide. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon, and I'd like to dedicate my remarks today to the memory of Professor Frank Geary, the man at St. Olaf College who hired me, who mentored me, and who tolerated me for a long, long time, and I miss him. He died about 3 or 4 months ago in January. My talk is motivated or stimulated by the widespread observation of surging incivility, impatience, and temper in America. There's plenty of evidence, and this slide sort of recounts some of it. Slight provocations stir voices to flare, faces to redden, and conversations to stall. We have terms like road rage, political campaigns marked by negativity, radio chatter clogged really with spiteful disrespect, and presidential addresses interrupted, in my opinion, belligerently. So responses to the other in the United States seem increasingly thoughtless, impatient, and aggressive. The context for this, of course, is life's stress and strain and tension and conflicts. But there is another way to respond in spite of the life that we live, which is stressful and conflict-ridden. One can hope for more thoughtful, patient, tolerant, and even compassionate responses from people. So I invite you to ponder with me two-person bilateral responses, patterns of response. Thus my title, 1 + 1 and Related Complications, because the 1 + 1 are two people. I think it's wonderful that we're at a liberal arts campus to explore the possibility or the challenges of bilateral interpersonal relations, because it offers so many different approaches. One can investigate by art by just allowing the images of art to disturb. Literature can be a wonderful source to study human interaction. Here we have two characters, of course, drawn who are destined to fight. Huck and Alfred. Huck representing the independent, sort of almost lawless American hero. And Alfred Temple, the civilized, recent immigrant from St. Louis, who not only civilized, but dapper. He wears a necktie, a right bit of ribbon. The two are destined to fight. It's part of their character. Psychology gives us transactional analysis to study dysfunctional communication. Biology and neuroscience give us the study of the chemistry of the body. And in particular, here we have on the one a cartoon of a testosterone molecule, and over here the estrogen sequence. Powerful materialistic parts of our being that influence how we react to one another. This diagram now talks about the brain responding to external stimuli and generating such hormones in response. The social sciences, meanwhile, give us what you might call simplifying models. These are reductionist kind of storylines that help a person to isolate simplicity out of the complexity of the world. So forget about personality and forget about the complications of hormones and bad communication. We'll simplify down to just a couple of things that we can keep track of, one thing at a time, and maybe in that way better clarify the situation. So I want you to follow with me in preparing a simple model of personal interaction. Imagine yourself as person A responding to a presentation from another person we'll call B, and you can respond in a very friendly way or in a very hostile way. And it's this hostility-friendliness continuum I want you to be aware of. We want to put your continuum up against the other person's continuum in an orthogonal fashion, so that we identify areas of interaction like friendly-friendly, friendly-hostile, hostile-friendly, etc. Now play with me. We have this concept in the social sciences of response curves. This first one on the left is a response curve showing the response of person A to a presentation of friendliness or hostility by person B. A is responding at the best to B's friendliness with friendliness of his own or her own. When B is hostile, A is also hostile. There's a reciprocity here going on. A cuts B a little slack in that particular response curve by remaining friendly even though B is turning hostile. Okay? Now the idea is that A and this person A can only have control over their own response, so friendliness and hostility of their own is involved, so you can only move from the left and the right toward your favored response given the other person's presentation. This diagram on the right shows also an everyday type citizen, but much more of a stoic, much more constrained and bounded versus the exuberance on the left. That's the idea. And it might be fun for you to imagine how you respond to others from time to time with these diagrams. Here's a couple more possibilities. There are thousands of possibilities, so I'm just playing the game a bit to get you acquainted. This oppressor with temper is a person who is always hostile to the other. It's a person A, and if B is friendly, A is hostile. And as B becomes less friendly, A becomes more hostile. When B turns hostile, A goes berserk. That's what we call temper. You see, we say the oppressor with temper. And of course, you can conjure all kinds of response curves, as it were. This on the right is the saint or guru A, always trying to respond with friendliness to any of B's presentations. If B is hostile, A tries to muster the discipline to be friendly in response. So A is trying to get to that curve, the green curve, friendly under all circumstances. Here's some more A's. Similarly, we can imagine B, who has control over his or her friendliness and hostility. The adjustments are up and down now to the curve that represents your best response to the other. And in this case, we have the everyday citizen B in blue and the saint guru B in blue. You get the idea. I hope you're getting the idea. It's just a game. And it's a game that involves you as a player sometimes trying to identify what your response might be to different people and different circumstances, and sometimes interest in the dynamics of the pair. Here we have a pair, just a simple pair, an everyday citizen A and a guru saint type person B. Now B is trying to adjust up and down to the blue line, A from the left and right to the green line. The dynamics of this pairing leads you typically to X, that point of intersection of the blue and green lines. Okay? Friendly, friendly. And we say the saint imposes friendliness on the citizen. That's how we talk. Social science talk. It probably, though, corresponds with some gut image or some earlier impression you had about the impact of saints on the normal everyday person. Right? That's good. You know, I can't see your eyes. I'm sitting here with this glare in my eye. I can't see you at all. So I'll just keep going. I hope you're entertained, having a clue. Here we have a more complicated interaction between two everyday citizens. Notice it partitions this, it's called a phase space, but it partitions it into 6 areas. There's these 2 lenses, and then the outside areas, and the forces of up and down to the blue and to left and right to the green give rise to 2 what we call stable equilibria, labeled X and Y. X is a very stable circumstance surrounded by lots of support of friendly for these 2 people. Y, on the other hand, is another equilibrium surrounded by lots of support for hostile. Isn't that interesting? That if 2 everyday citizens get together, there are those 2 very likely outcomes. In fact, of course, that each of the 2 has cut the other some slack, remaining friendly in the face of the other's hostility. It's a good thing. These 2 people might be able to get married. Now, you know that even married, you can have some hostile days. That's the way it works. But, by and large, you move up from outside those cells up into the area that favors the friendly outcome, and that's, of course, what you want. Now, here's your assignment. I'm supposed to give you an assignment. That's what I do. This is imagining 2 people. A is a reciprocator, that is to say, giving friendly responses to friendly first moves or presentations and giving hostile responses to hostile presentations. B is an everyday citizen. A, however, has a temper. in the sense that when B turns hostile, A turns very hostile. Hostile with vehemence, with a vengeance. And it's interesting that you watch the dynamics of this so-called relationship. It's hard to call it a relationship, isn't it? It's a model. It's a model. The dynamics are such that they favor that point Y as an equilibrium. So the likelihood for this pairing of people would be that the forces press you towards Y, friendly. And you can imagine that. But it also opens the door to the possibility of escalating hostilities. And if you notice that little area down below where the black arrow is pointing that way, in an unbounded way to hostile, and more hostile, that's the prospect that we want to worry about. One can imagine, for instance, a married couple at Y, B loses his job, goes into a funk and starts to present some hostility. Y responds, and you follow a track from Y down and up and into that doggone mess where hostility reigns, and you're lost. So imagine this. This is that same diagram kind of written differently. Consider the potentials in this diagram for steady love, attachment, commitment, devotion, affection. That's A. And at the same pairing, the possibility down below of spouse abuse, child abuse, elder abuse, Trayvon Martin abuse, etc. That is to say, these relationships have a certain volatility built into them, and especially it relates to this unbridled temper. And to bridle that temper, to manage that temper, to control that temper involves discipline. Perhaps we can find that. Now, who are A and B? There are lots of A's and B's in the world. What have I got? Oh, I'm in big trouble. Oh, that never went on. I still got 11 minutes and 30 seconds to go. I'll hurry. The clock has failed them. That's my benefit. You could be roommates A and B. You could be racial groups A and B, black and white. Or you could be ethnic groups, Croats and Serbs or something. You can be spouses. You can be nations. Within families, there are lots of pairs. If you get 3 people in a family, that's 3 pairs, right? Mother-child, father-child, and mother-father. And when you get 3 pairs, you get dynamisms that are way beyond what I'm able to do in 10 minutes, but it's really interesting. If you have 4 people, you get 6 pairs, and 5 people, you get 10 pairs. And just imagine the complexity of a family with these response patterns built in. My pessimistic note is that we can't rely on human nature to get us out of this mess. If we have a society that's generating an epidemic of incivility, we got a problem. Human nature isn't going to solve because we learn response patterns ourselves. We practice them, they become like cement, like rocks. It's very slow to change. They're nourished by family, and actually they're reified by religion. Of course, you can find in Scripture support for most anything. And if society is generating and reinforcing patterns of response, that's interesting. But it's also a little bit pessimistic. We have a new field in the social sciences called social epidemiology, the study of mortality and morbidity due to stresses in lifestyle. And among the disorders in this world of social epidemiology are road rage, right? And abuse, child abuse, elder abuse, family abuse. And now I invite you to imagine cures. And I think as you imagine the cures, you're going to imagine a society that wrestles with itself over the matter of self-discipline. Thank you for your attention.